He's the baby boy. Hey, you want to say hi before we begin? I'm talking to you. Jazzy boy. You gotta get those Instagram followers. Let's see. Maybe that won't fall down. And then 3 and 2. Perfect. Good morning again. My name is David again, and we're here for Facebook Live's weekly workshop. It's kind of wet. It's kind of rainy. I thought about going into the shack to do this class, but there's a few people doing their own movement practice, taking some time for meditation. So maybe we'll keep it short, and I'll introduce a routine, a scan, a body scan, a daily check that you can do daily. And this is something everyone can do. If you have a joint that moves, if you have any sort of body part then that can articulate, that can find a circle, whatever that may mean, then you can do this practice. I just got back from teaching at one of the local prisons, and in between our bouts of meditation and walking and breathing, this is what we did 15 minutes before they went to lunch. And it truly is the easiest and most fundamental thing that you can do, in my opinion, on a daily basis. As one teacher who's a dancer and professional mover had said to me once, move your shit every day. Move your joints every day. Whatever that means. I tell people to do the coffee dance. You hit brew on the pot, and then you start from head down until you start wiggling into every little piece. It's that simple. Do the coffee dance. Do a couple circles. Do a couple shakes. We're going to break it down just a little bit more. Maybe we'll do 2 or 3 laps per joint from head to toe. But this practice doesn't need to be 2 hours of squeezing weights and really tuning. Hey, cats. Really tuning into those slow, subtle movements. We don't need to necessarily always find the intense resistance. We don't necessarily always have to hold a yoga pose for 5 breaths or even 5 minutes. Sometimes it just takes moving our shit. So, as we go through these controlled articulations, I want to encourage a couple of ground principles. Some of those ground principles include pain and how we note it and how we can avoid it. I like to mention following the line of tension often. So let's start here. If I were to begin to find a big wide circle with my chin, taking my head all the way around, I can note a couple of things. As I started to turn down towards my right armpit, I noticed some tightness in the opening side of the joint. The opening side of the joint is typically going to be some form of muscular resistance, that highway traffic tension. So those are the points where we could pause, breathe, and slowly let it subside as we work further into that new range. Something we likely want to avoid is pinching in the closing side of the joint. This may be something deeper, maybe capsulitis, maybe something deeper that's causing an impingement. So the same principle applies. If I feel a closing side, the angle that's closing, start to pinch, I can pause there, I can breathe there, but I also don't need to keep pushing into it. If it doesn't subside after 3 breaths, after a minute or so, wiggle around it. There's no need to keep pushing, and you see people do this with their head, trying to pop their head. Just get to that point, find that edge of tension, and then move around it. Okay? Opening side tension versus closing side tension. Muscular versus joint. Most of the time. Alright, let's begin. Head to toe. Controlled articular rotations. Creating a little tension in the body just to find some stability in the neighboring joints. We begin today dropping the chin. Finding our full breath. And then following that line of tension by guiding the chin in a nice wide circle. Now on the first lap, I like to go a little slower, a little smoother than I think I need to. And then on the second lap, maybe a bit smoother, a bit smaller. Okay. It's that simple. We'll go the other direction. Dropping the chin. Noting any differences as I go from left compared to right. Already some difference in the opening side. Moving out of any areas of discomfort, but still exploring. And that's one. That's the most basic neck and head movement that you can make without getting into more advanced isometrics. Okay, taking it down just a little bit. Let's focus on the spine for a moment. Sometimes I like to cross my arms. Sometimes I let my arms hang. What I'm trying to avoid is a tilt of the pelvis either way. Just keeping a bit of engagement so that the lower half stays stable as the top half has freedom to move. Now, just like we did with the head, I'm going to feel what it's like to round my shoulders and round my upper thoracic spine just until I feel as though my hips are beginning to tilt. From that point, I find my line of tension and I find my circle. Twisting one direction, like a laser beam shooting out from the chest. I go out, up, over, noting restriction, breathing, and continuing on. And again, this can be 5 minutes per circle. This can easily turn into a 2-hour practice on its own. Or you can do the coffee dance. Some good pops noted already. Alright, first spinal check-in. A little further down. This is a very easy one. Bending into one leg. I lift one hip. Switching the bend, I lift the other hip. Belly dancing 101. Tilting tailbone back towards the sky versus tucking forwards. And then you can combine. Little hip lift, little tailbone flick, off to the other side, and pulling towards the front. Like a coin or a bowl, rolling. And then we switch. Woo. There it was. And the hands and the elbows and the arms are going to be quite similar to the feet and the knees and the hips. I'm going to start with the upper and you'll see how they relate. I'm going to encourage for the hands that everyone find a sort of imaginary X on top of the wrist. Keeping the elbows fairly close, we can do both hands at the same time. For this first variation, just try to keep the palms flat. You can go on to expand by grabbing tennis balls, by changing from gripping to extending, but try to keep the palms flat and see what happens. With that imaginary X, without letting the forearm rotate over, see what it's like to dip the hands down. And again, without the forearm turning over, follow that circular line of tension. And you'll notice that as you about hit this point, some people take on this eagle claw thing. Some people like to do the cup, like they're trying to swim. It doesn't matter how far the hands get. Try to explore what it's like to keep them flat. Dipping down, pinky turning in, palms facing, and then thumbs rotating out. And then we smooth out the edges. Slow it down if you feel a point of resistance. And continue on. Reverse the direction. Slower than you think you need to. And connect the dots. Alright, elbows. This is another easy one. Strong grip. Reverse curl. Fully extending, allowing that rotation to continue to pull as you extend. And then allow for a full rotation as you curl up. Like you're moving through thick fog, like you have that 20-pound weight. So simple, but this is the first exercise I ever realized that I could get nice elbow pops. Every joint has that capability, but just like muscles don't stretch a certain way, joints don't articulate certain ways due to lack of movement, lack of body work. Yeah. The shoulder is a bit more technical, but not by much. Damn cats. I'm going to do one arm at a time, and then I'll show how to combine both. One arm's fairly simple. We'll have this sort of highway driving position, swimmer body position, pressing shoulder out, pulling shoulder back, and then we find that middle point where we feel most plugged in. From here we can begin to cut across the body, staying plugged in. And once we start to get to this point, this is where every single yogi in an asana class can afford to pay attention. Anyone really. Whether you're a CrossFitter, throwing weight above your head, or you're a pull-upper or a rock climber. We get to this point and so many of us reach our arms above our head, but we arc our lower back and we let the shoulders come out and we take our big sun salutation and we wonder why our shoulders hurt. There are moments when that feels good. There are moments when it's important to reach and extend, but when we're talking joint health, we're looking for integrity, at least for now. So as I start to cut across the body, I try to stay plugged in as I reach above my head, and then I allow the rotation of the hand turning out and my shoulder turning in to guide me piece by piece, a little further back and a little further down. And if I keep that rotation going, leading the way, the palm of my hand should be turning out. Okay? And then we reverse it. I can try to lift off from here, see where I get, and then I allow the rotation in the opposite direction to guide me back, trying to stay plugged in as I cut across and down. Alright? And just for comparison, I'll show the left side with a closed fist. Closed fist, trying to stay plugged in, following that rotation, turning the hand out, back, and down. You can take a breath, lifting off, and rotating. Rotation leads the way, avoiding compensation, and we return. Okay, let's try both. Across the body, rotating out, back, down, lifting off, up like a slow sun salutation, and then we connect the dots. And may I note, there's nothing wrong with compensation. Life is a big game of compensating. This is compensating. Okay? We never live life in a linear fashion. But if we can learn alignment, and we can learn to train in some of these varying angles, then we'll understand when, where, how, why we are compensating. Okay? Compensate all you want after you know why. More kitties. Hey, Sheila baby. So the feet, the knees, and the hips are quite similar. I always recommend holding onto a wall, a friend, a pole, but this could also be turned into a balancing pose. Real easy, pointing, drawing our big circle, connecting the dots, smaller circles, going both ways. Okay? Keeping the thigh steady and the foot flexed, not pointed, flexed. You'll notice if we turn that foot internally and out, the shin has a bit of play. Something like 15 degrees of play, the shin and the knee can actually articulate. It's not just a hinge joint. So as I turn this foot in, I can start to bicep curl the heel in. As I turn the foot out, I extend. Just like we did with the elbow. I can reverse. Alright. And why not? Same side leg. You can switch if you feel you need to. Exactly like we did with the arm. I'm going to have the heel pulled in, exploring this internal versus external rotation. And when I'm ready, keeping the hips steady, drawing the leg across the body, I rotate out to take the leg out. Rotate in to draw back and down. One more time that way. Internal, external, back and down. And we reverse with a little fire hydrant. Rotation up and across. Fire hydrant. I just like saying fire hydrant. Up. Do you bring me a nitro? Same thing, other side. This foot's a little poppier, so I'm going to hold. I'm going to breathe into the spot where I feel this long side resistance. And it subsided pretty quickly. Okay. Knee, flexed foot. Yes! What are you doing? Trying to show off. And then the hip. Internal and external. Drawing across the body. Outwards. Back and down. And this can be very small. This can be side to side, exploring this internal versus external rotation. Or we can explore the full articulation. Fire hydrant to reverse. And a little shake or bounce to connect it all. And you can go further. You can go much, much further with all of this. There are finger articulations, as I mentioned. We simply did the most basic neck and head circle, but there is much more room to play. Same with the arms. There's much more room to explore these thoracic vortexes. No, Sheila. Cats are hungry. These pelvic weaves. Okay? The reason articulations are important, if I make it real with you for a second, is because they are the core of all of that muscle building that you are trying to do. If your joint stuff doesn't work, then your muscle stuff isn't going to work. That's just the fact of the matter. You need to take care of yourself from its true core. Yoga, stretching, all of that is great for tendon health, even for joint health. You're teaching the body new patterns of movement. But if you don't have time for an hour and a half yoga class, if you can't make it to the gym to do your 2-hour weightlifting sesh, try to spend 5 minutes, 20 minutes, however long you have to move your shit, to grease the joints. Everything else will fall into place, and chances are, if you move in a way that feels good for even 5 minutes, you're going to do more. You're going to want to do more. CARs, controlled articular rotations, a term coined by the FRC program based out of Toronto, Canada, functional range conditioning. If anyone would like to learn more, I am an FR practitioner, certified, but I know many, many other teachers with many, many other techniques that follow in line with this exact same principle. We'll expand upon this further. If you have any questions, comments, critiques, compliments, let me know. Let us know. What would you like to see more of? What would you like to see on our upcoming YouTube channel? Thank you. Love you. Say goodbye to the cats because they've been very patient. Goodbye.